Hughes with Point Firearms, and today what we're going to be doing is going over installing your Lee Auto Disc powder feeder on your Lee LoadMaster Progressive Press. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we're going to install the Lee Auto Disc powder feeder, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now in this case, I've already got my press set up with my die set. And this is actually my expander die, which at this stage is where the powder gets loaded into the cartridge. Alright, now when you purchase your expander die for the caliber that you're loading, it's going to have a little cup that screws in on top of it there. What that does is that it works as a funnel holder, so you can stick a funnel in there if you're loading manually, and it also retains the expanding clip that's inside of there that actually expands the mouth of the case. And what we want to do to use the powder feeder is we want to remove that little cup. Right, so we're just going to remove that cup and put it to the side, and then we're going to use the Lee Auto Disc powder feeder, and it has a little threaded collar on it there, and it just sets right in the top, and it just screws right down on top of that expander die. Alright, so you're just going to tighten that down until it sets tight in that expander die. And that will work as taking the place of the cup that comes in the expander die. Alright? Now, the next step in setting this thing up is you have this little chain here. Alright? Now this chain is the reset. When you run the case up in there, it's actually going to push this forward, lift it up and push it forward, and that's going to drag the auto disc forward and drop the amount of powder into the case. Then when the disc comes back down, sometimes this thing will get stuck in the up position, so this chain hooks to the carrier, so that once the carrier drops back down, it actually resets by pulling down and resetting the disc. Now to figure out, to install the disc, you just remove these two little these little brass nuts that are on there. Remove those and pull the powder hopper right off the top. Auto disc, or your powder feeder, will come with 4 Lee Auto discs. And the discs have different size holes in it, and that's for different amounts of powder that you want in your rounds. Okay? I'm loading 38 special. I'm setting up to load 38 special. So what I'm going to do is use my load data sheet that comes with the Lee dies, and this is the reason why I like to use the Lee load data sheets, because it tells me which discs to use in this. So in my case, I'm loading 150 grain lead bullets. Well, there's no 150 grain lead bullet on here, but there's a 150 grain jacketed bullet. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go down here to the 158 grain lead bullet. Alright, and I'm going to find the powder that I'm using, which is, I will be using Power Pistol, and it says that my starting grains for a Power Pistol should be 4.8. Now that's for a 158 grain bullet. Alright, for the 150 grain jacketed bullet, it doesn't give me Power Pistol, but 4.8. So I'm going to go with one disc smaller for the 150 grain lead bullets. So I'm looking here, Power Pistol. It's going to tell me that my auto disc that I want to use would be .40. So I find the one with .40, and it's right there. And I'm going to drop down one and go to .37. Alright, .37 would be the next step down from the one that it recommends. So since I'm loading 150 grain lead bullets instead of 158 grain, I want to drop down to that .37. And that's the disc that I'll be using. Alright, now when you install the disc in the top, or on the actual feeder itself, you want that .37 to face the direction of the drop hole. Alright, and then in the bottom here it'll have little slits in it for the actuator to set in. Alright, so for a .37, there we go. I've got it lined up there, and the little actuator sitting in there, so you can see it working now. It moves the disc back and forth. Alright, and then I'll take my powder hopper and I'll place it back on the top of the assembly and put my wing nuts back on. Alright, so in this case I'm using Alliant Powder's powder pistol, and you want to make sure that it's in the cutoff position, that your hopper's in the cutoff position, and we'll go ahead and put some powder in our hopper. Alright, now another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to loosen up the screw that holds the case retainer, and you're going to want to move that to the out position so that you can pull that case on and off without it taking the whole cycle. Alright, now what we're going to do is go ahead and turn our powder hopper on by opening it up, and what that did is it dropped the powder into the .37. Alright, I'm going to put a empty case. It's an empty 38 special case. And it's got an old primer in it still, which is okay. Alright, and we're going to slide it right into our shell holder. And then we're going to run it up into our powder feed. I'm going to come back down a little bit, run it again. And what this is doing is I'm just going to cycle the powder through there so that it gets used to actuating and dropping the same amount of powder each time. Alright, now we'll run it up, let it drop, come back down, reset here, and we're going to pull our case off with the powder in it. Okay? Now you want to use your scale. We'll let our scale reset here. I'm going to go ahead and drop our pan on there and then tear it so that it goes back to 0, and then we're going to pour our powder right into our little powder holder there, and it's showing that we've got about 4 grains. Alright, so now we'll go back up here, empty that out, this back on, run it up again, and check our powder again. 4.1. Alright, I usually check about 3 times and make sure that it's within 0.2 grains each time. So we're only within 0.1. We had 4.0, 4.1, 4.0. So our powder dropper is dropping a consistent amount of powder each pass. Now I want to go ahead and double check to make sure that I'm okay on my data sheet. Alright, so for a 158 grain lead bullet, our starting grains with power pistol is 4.8. We're shooting a 150 grain, so we're going to drop it down a little bit, and 4.0 should be a good enough charge for a 150 grain lead bullet. Alright, and so now what we want to do is hook up our chain here that resets us each time to make sure that everything's functioning properly. So what you're going to need is a little spring that comes with it and a little detent or retaining clip. Alright, you're just going to drop your chain right down through the little hole that's in the carrier right here. Alright, and then take the chain and slide your spring on there. And then put your little retaining clip or detent, whatever you want to call it, on the end, and that holds everything nice and tight there. Now you'll take and you want to run your carrier up just a fraction, pull the chain tight, you don't want it too tight, but you want it tight enough that it resets. If it's too tight, then you'll break your chain and you'll get bounce in your thing. But right now, if we run this up, let's go ahead and do it. Run it up, feed the powder in, alright, and when we come back down, if for whatever reason this doesn't reset, then the chain grabs it and pulls the disc back to reset. Alright guys, so that's pretty much the down and dirty on how you install your Lee Auto Disc powder feed into your Lee Progressive Press. Now this could also be used in a single stage press setting where you are using one die at a time. You can still put your powder feed on there, and you're just going to do one case at a time, put it in a case holder. One case at a time, put it in a case holder until you get ready to install your bullet seeder die and move on to the next stage. Alright, it's very important that you use the proper disc for the amount that you want. Now sometimes the data sheet can be incorrect, and especially if you're loading with your own load, you know that you've been shooting a certain amount of grains and you're a little bit short, then bump it up to the next disc and check that. You also want to make sure that your powder is coming out consistently. That's why we checked the 3 in a row on a scale, and we were at 4.0, 4.1, and 4.0, and all 3 of those work fine. All right. So another thing that I recommend whenever you're starting loading on this is whatever caliber you're loading, unless you've loaded before and you know what you need to be at, you've got your own personal load data. I would say load one and put it in the gun and try to shoot it. Make sure that it actually clears the barrel and it's enough powder to get it out of the barrel. Alright? So anyway guys, that's how you do it, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the video and learned something from it. Maybe I've helped you out. If you like the video, go ahead and rate it. Just lets us know that you care, and don't forget to subscribe. Till next time guys, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.